Welcome to Built, Not Burnt Out, the podcast where we explore the science, mindset, and habits behind lasting health transformation. I'm Melissa Peterson, an attorney, health coach, fitness instructor, and founder of the Becoming Method, mom of 10, and your host. My passion is helping people understand that lasting health isn't about just losing weight. It's about transforming the whole person through nutrition, mindset, habits, emotional health, and identity. Today's guest is someone whose journey will inspire anyone who's ever wondered if changing the food on their plate could truly change their life. Lori Fuller began eating a carnivore diet to improve her own health. What started as a personal experiment became a complete lifestyle transformation. And today, Lori has taken that passion and turned it into a business, creating delicious low-carb meals that help people transition away from the standard American diet towards a healthier, low-carb lifestyle without feeling deprived. We're going to talk to her about her story, what she learned along the way, common misconceptions about low-carb eating, and practical ways anyone can begin making healthier choices. Lori, welcome to Built, Not Burnt Out. I'm really glad that you're here. And can you please tell us about your health journey and what led you to try carnivore?
Well, thanks for having me, Melissa. I really appreciate it. Um, let's see. It was about 25, 26 years ago. So I've been at this for a pretty long time. And back then it was called Atkins. And I had well, a pretty untraditional doctor um, who recommended that I switch to a low carb lifestyle because my pregnancies were very difficult. It was difficult to get pregnant. Um, it was difficult to stay pregnant because of my high blood sugars. And he kind of tongue in cheek offered it up as an option. And I just had nowhere else to go, no, nothing else to try. Um, so it worked. Long story short, there, it worked. And so I did have big babies, but that was because I do have blood sugar problems if I am not disciplined. And pregnancy is just a whole different game with prediabetes or with, type 2 diabetes. And the tests they give you, where you drink that really syrupy soda, or whatever it is, they always came
Yes.
back very high, very high. And so that was a pretty good indication that it was type 2. So after I had the babies, they said, "Oh, it'll go down. You'll be fine." Well, the sugars never went down. And I was testing, and met with a nutritionist from the hospital who was just so weird. She's, "Oh, this much fruit and this many carbs and all this." And it was all way too much for my body, the way my body would react. So I took my doctor's advice, his kind of tongue-in-cheek advice, and I went Atkins. And back then, anyway, I think Atkins has changed a little bit since then in the last, 25, 30 years. But back then, they had something called the induction phase. And it was 0 to 10 carbs. And that was how you would transition your body. And I did that while I was pregnant. I figured, and I didn't think anything about the low carb flu. I thought it was morning. I thought it was morning sickness. So I thought, oh, well, this is just being pregnant, And so I had gotten through that, not even knowing it was the low carb flu. And then as I've helped people through the years, I realized, oh, well, that's the low carb flu. But now there's ways around it using more electrolytes and things like that. So that's where my journey started many years ago. And then after my last baby, and like I said, the sugars just didn't go down. They didn't, reset back to normal. So I just stayed on the low carb diet after that. And that's where it started. And it works for my body. So that's what I've just stuck with.
And so, as you did that, what besides getting pregnant were the health improvements that you experienced?
Oh, good question. There was a lot. It was like night and day. Um, I wasn't fatigued all the time. I found, wow, I have energy, to do all this stuff. What, a lot of people would say when they were pregnant, they were just exhausted all the time. Well, there's a part of pregnancy that you feel exhausted, but I didn't notice that much. I felt like I had more energy. I slept a lot better. Um, Everything just kind of evened out. My digestion, the bathroom habits. It was all just like, oh, wow, what a relief. I'm not like on this crazy roller coaster all the time, because I didn't know at the time, your blood sugar's spiking and then it's crashing. And you learn all these things the more you dive into it. And I had not had any, I didn't even know I had blood sugar problems until I was trying to get pregnant and, went to the doctor about things. And I had no idea. I thought it was just the way I was, you know. So everything did change for the better, from sleep to appetite to, yeah, just how my body felt.
Did you notice any changes like in your weight or your body composition?
Um, I didn't gain that much during pregnancy. Um, I had friends that pregnant at the same time, and I'm gaining so much weight and all this, and I really didn't. I gained about, 25 pounds, I guess, enough for a baby. And my babies were huge, you know, I had 8, 9, 10 pound babies, it's like, okay, I guess I'm getting enough food. And then I think recovery was better than a lot of my friends were having. And I attribute all that to just a healthy diet.
And when you went to the carnivore diet, were you eating a standard American diet at the time, or what kind of diet were you eating?
I was standard American diet. Yeah, I was just
And
everything.
and so you've been eating low carb slash carnivore for did you say 26 years?
26 years. Yeah, yeah.
And when you go to the doctor, like how are your labs?
They're all really good. They're all really good. My numbers are always really good. Um, yeah, there's never any, I mean, my cholesterol is always like, well, it used to be an issue, and now nobody even asks about my cholesterol anymore, which is always around 200. It's been up to like, I don't know, 220, but it's always around 200 somewhere, give or take. And um, yeah, nobody, now the doctor's like, nobody cares about cholesterol anymore. It used to be this big, horrible thing. You were going to die. And
Right.
no, all my numbers are really pretty good.
Well, I think that people know now that higher cholesterol is actually not bad, that it actually might be beneficial, but there's been no
Right.
official change in those numbers by any sort of uh, association or standard at this point.
Right. Right.
Um, and so you've done this for a long time, and you currently you are a music teacher by profession, correct?
Hmm.
And then
Correct.
and you're currently semi-retired from teaching, correct? And so you've
Correct.
gotten into this cooking business. So can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a really fun thing to do. Through the years you have, well, a lot of colleagues. at school would say, "Oh, I need help losing weight. You're always so fit. Can you help me lose weight?" And I'm like, "Well, just lower your carbs, you know." And I try to give them pointers like track your carbs, see where you're at, and then slowly back off. You know, try to reduce your carbs. Um, and then I would try to share some recipes with them, and for the most part, most of them would say, "Oh, this is too hard. This is too hard. The rest of my family's eating this, and I'm eating this." And I'd be like, "Well, you can make pizza." And then, "Yeah, but it's so much time in the kitchen." You know, it was just all these excuses. And then I said, "Well, you want to come over and I'll help you learn how to make these things. I'll show you how to make noodles. I'll show you how to make pizza. I'll show you how to make crackers. I'll show you, I'd have all these recipes." And so that seemed to help a little bit, but almost all of them said, "Well, can I just pay you to make this for me?" They didn't want to, you know, one gal said, "I'm not tackling this learning curve. I'll just pay you and you can make it for me." So I'm like, "Okay, if you want." And I think that's kind of like where it started, that uh they just didn't want to take the time out of it. It is a lot of time. It is a lot of time. And, like meal prepping, you're at it for hours, if you're prepping ahead. And especially if you're doing carnivore cooking, if you want to make it taste like the real thing, and so many people miss the real thing. But then when they have the carnivore version of it, they're like, "Wow, I like this even better. This has this is really satisfying." One gal said she would eat probably half a pizza when she would get regular standard American diet pizza. And then the carnivore pizza, which is made with a meat flour crust and really quality ingredients. And she was, "I can only eat a couple pieces and I'm full." Whereas filling up with the carb stuff, she said she was never really full. Um, so anyway, it started just helping out some friends, colleagues, and then word of mouth just kind of took off. And there's just there's quite a few people I cook for, and they just don't want to do it themselves, or don't have time, or don't want to worry about buying the ingredients. Because that's the other thing too, with carnivore cooking, you want to eat clean, and sometimes it's hard to find clean ingredients. Sometimes you have to make your own, like meat flour. If you go to buy meat flour, off of Thrive Market, or uh, it's very expensive. It's inexpensive to make your own, but super time consuming. And I just make that a luxury for people because I'll just do it for them. And they pay me for my time, they pay me for my skill, and it's just worked out really well. I enjoy it.
So when you talk about like that it takes a lot of time, you're talking about making sort of standard American diet like foods, but only making them carnivore. So we're talking about
Correct.
like chips and noodles and pizza crust. We're not talking like, throwing like a roast in the crock pot and like it just
Right.
makes the food you need. And that's pretty labor non-intensive to do
Correct.
that.
Correct. But I found that people who are just starting to transition from the standard American diet to a low carb or carnivore diet really struggle with the things they miss, and it's what makes them quit. Um, I had one gal that had such a sweet tooth. Uh, she she said, I can't do this. I need something sweet with my coffee. I need some, and I'm like, okay, okay, let's try this. And you can make muffins, chocolate muffins. Okay, so, and she goes, "It's got to be easy if I'm going to do it." Okay, you take crushed pork rinds, some cocoa powder, a sweetener of your choice that your body can deal with, react well. And a lot of the I don't use artificial sweeteners. Mostly what I use would be stevia. Um, a little higher carb would be like monk fruit. Um, there's also allulose, things like that, that are a little more natural, and your body processes them well, and they're lower carb. So if you put all this in a microwave little mug, 3 tablespoons pork rinds, a little bit of cocoa, a little bit of your sweetener, whichever one you choose, put in an egg, mix it all up there, 1 minute in the microwave. And she started crying. She's like, I can do this. And it was a chocolate muffin. Well, now she's gone so to the point where she doesn't have to add the cocoa anymore. She doesn't have to add vanilla anymore. And your body will adjust to the less sickly sweet taste of standard American diet food, and you begin to crave the better stuff. So after a while, some of the people I've helped will find they don't crave even the substitutes as much anymore. They're happy with putting a roast in and eating off that for the week. They're happy, doing a little more meat based, just meat based, meat, eggs, butter, fish, things like that. So it's a
That's really awesome.
transition help. Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, when I went carnivore, that it was hard at first, and I missed foods, but now I don't miss them at all. In fact, I could probably just eat beef every day,
Yeah,
and I wouldn't lack for anything,
I
and I
could
like
eat
it.
eggs every day, Oh, and
Yes.
I'm fine. Yeah, but
Yes.
especially when I first started, um, the original Atkins book. Um, I think Dr. Robert Atkins' wife, and her name escapes me, but she had great recipes in there, um, using a lot of eggs and a lot of dairy and a lot of things, and it helped to transition. And I realized that so many of the recipes had dairy in it. Well, I found later your body turns dairy to sugar. So maybe that helped with it because then I could reduce the amount on my own, and yet my body was still thinking it was getting sugar because
Yeah.
but then after a while oh yeah, I don't really need this, or wow, I'm just not hungry. And I think the standard American diet, you're always hungry. I think because you're
Yeah.
always crashing,
Yeah.
and I need that 3 o'clock treat, to get me through to supper at 5.
Right.
It's like, yeah, and um, it's a good transition to help. But even now, I'll rarely have, I'll make a carnivore pizza, when my family comes home, or we're going to some uh, family thing. I'll make, crackers. We'll make some, and a lot of times I'll put it out and people won't even know that it's carnivore. Like if we're going to Easter dinner at some relatives, I'll bring crackers and dip. Well, they don't know they're meat crackers. They're, oh, Lori, oh, you brought your crackers. Great. And then I don't even say anything. And I think my mother-in-law had a birthday party not long ago. We had a bunch of family in, and they were going to all have pizza. So of course, I brought one of my pizzas, and I had to make sure I even got a piece. Everybody was eating, and I'm like, I don't know, but I get one. So
Right.
yeah, yeah. But it's great transition food. But after a while, you find that you're pretty satisfied with eggs and meat.
It does take time, and I think that that's it. Like it's addiction transfer because you go from like sugar, and then you're cutting out sugar because you're eating meat, and
Right.
then your addiction can transfer to dairy or fat or both. I actually had that happen to me where it went to dairy at first, and I would just like use whipping cream all the time.
Mhm.
And then it went to fat, where I would make like treats out of tallow with some vanilla and pumpkin
Mhm.
pie spice. And
Mhm.
like I could, and it was hard for me to stop eating that stuff. But eventually, like I got it into check. But it is a little bit of a, you get addiction transfer. I think that's where I wish I had um, known the skills that I have now for
Right.
managing addiction. Because if I'd known that, it might have been easier to make those transitions and to, stop eating sugar and processed food when I made the change. But, I
Mhm.
guess it's just a journey and eventually you just get to the end.
And you have to be ready. You can't just jump in. I mean, because you face things like that. Like, whoa, why am I, you know, why am I craving heavy whipping cream? Why am I craving, all these things? You got to give yourself time. Got to be patient. Got to
Yes.
flood you. And what I found helpful too is, well, back when I started, there wasn't YouTube. There wasn't, you know, carnivore videos you could watch and doctors um, you could get advice from. And, so it was just all kind of, okay, just counting my carbs, just counting. And then Maria Emmerich, oh, that was huge. The first time I saw one of her cookbooks was like, heaven's gates open and go, oh my goodness, you can make what? And pudding out of, she uses boiled eggs. Um, I think I'll scramble my eggs to use to make the pudding. And it was like, that was a total godsend when I saw her cookbooks. Like, wow, that's where I got the idea. Let's make substitute foods um, for the standard American diet stuff. So not all my
Right.
recipes are from her, but a lot. Yeah. So credit to her. She's awesome.
Yes. So what would you say to people, like, hey, they're thinking about taking some steps to eating healthier? Like what tips would you tell them?
Don't let yourself get hungry because that's when you make your biggest mistakes. Then you're going to beat yourself up, you know? Um, One thing I find really helpful, there's something called the egg fast, and it's a really good way to transition. Yeah, and you're not supposed to be on the egg fast for very long, like, 3 days, 5 days, then that's it, you know? And one of the rules in the egg fast is don't let yourself get hungry. And you have one egg paired with like an ounce of cheese or butter. So you have an egg and you have a fat. And if you start feeling hungry, have an egg and have a fat. And then you have, I mean, depending on your body size, um, how many eggs you have a day. I mean, I'd have to look it up. I'd have to look it up. But the ketogenic woman, I think she's from Canada. Anita is her name. She's got this whole egg fast diet recipe list, these videos of these recipes. I think it's on her website too. And that's helped a lot of people transition without getting hungry. Because I think the problem is you get hungry, you make a mistake because you're hungry, you know, it, and then you can't forgive yourself and you quit. Well, it was just too hard. I can't do it. So if you could do little things like that, like, I mean, I suppose you could do it without eggs. You could do it with meat. Just don't let yourself get hungry. Cube up your meat. Um, and when you feel that pang of hunger, okay, maybe take a drink of water, have some electrolytes. I have a salt rock. I have a salt rock, and then I'll suck on my salt rock if I get hungry or I feel, you get sometimes hungry, you feel lightheaded, you feel, uh, like you're a little nauseous, and it could just be hunger. Um, so you take these different things, have electrolytes, try your salt rock, drink some water, things like that. Okay, now I'm okay. And then make a better choice when you're going to eat. Have some meat. I mean, that's the best choice ever, I think, personally. I think ground beef or any kind of beef, um, and eggs. I mean, I could just live off that, but make that choice
You,
and prepare ahead of time. Don't let yourself get to that point. So,
yeah, meal prep is really important to
because
stay on
you go,
track.
yeah, I remember in one of your meeting groups, you were saying, you just stand in front of the fridge. Why am I
Yeah,
standing here in front of the fridge? What am I looking for? If you meal prep, if you have things ready, um, okay, I have that. And then something you were mentioning the other day too is the tracking and how you don't even realize how much you're eating. But if you're tracking, say, I have to write this down. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right.
yeah,
So there's a bunch of different techniques to get yourself transitioned into a healthier lifestyle.
100%. So what do you have any other final advice for people that want to improve their health?
Um, a lot of it's a mind game. A lot of it is a mind game. And if you try to white knuckle it, it's not going to work. You need friends to talk to. You need to plan things out. You need to have a something to follow, um, and you need inspiration. And that's one thing I found when I started the Atkins. His first book is full of these inspiring stories that really uh, help with, hey, that person lost that much weight, and I can do this. Look how healthy they are. Look, this one guy had lost a ton of weight and he ran a marathon against people or with people that were years, decades younger than him. And he said he kicked their butts. And it was like, you need inspiration, you need the discipline, you need to plan ahead and be prepared that this isn't always going to be easy. And I mean, we could go into talk about plateaus. We could talk about, you know, stalls. I mean, all these different things that, yeah, you could do all the right things, and this is still going to happen. But you got the bigger picture, you got your plan, you have your, food prepped and ready, track it, it'll work. It'll work.
Yes,
And have
that it will.
friends. Yeah, have friends to talk to about it, or you're going to go
Yes,
crazy. You're going to go nuts,
yes,
and you're going to want to quit.
100%. 100%. I know Lori and I are friends and we've been carnivore friends. So
I wondered how, yeah, I wondered if I should bring that up. Yeah.
yeah, we've shared a lot of things and if you're really struggling, reach out to me because I have a group of people that and we meet and we discuss these things. And you don't have to just be a carnivore for that. You can just be a person who wants to be healthier. So
Yeah.
um
I
so
would highly
Lori,
recommend Melissa's groups.
uh, thank you. I am going to, what I'm going to do in this show is I'm going to drop in our show notes, like any links to Lori's information and like if you're interested in her food service, how you can reach out to her. And Lori,
Mhm.
I thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your story. I know that your journey is going to encourage so many people to better their health and to find hope that change is possible. And thanks for the work that you're doing to help people make healthier eating more simple and practical. Um, and to everybody listening, thank you for spending a part of your day with us. And if you enjoyed this episode, take a moment to subscribe to Built, Not Burnt Out on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify, or all of them. And if you found value in today's conversation, we would love it if you would like this episode or leave a 5-star review and share it with someone who could benefit from hearing Lori's story. Every like, review, or share helps us reach more people who are ready to build healthier lives and create lasting transformation. And if you're looking for personalized guidance on your own health journey, I'd love to help. You can learn more about the Becoming Method and connect with me through the links in the show notes. And until next time, remember, your past doesn't define you. Your circumstances don't have to limit you, and it's never too late to become the healthiest version of yourself. And thanks for listening to Built Not Burnt Out, and we'll see you next time.